In December 2016, Josh Bersin, an expert in leadership strategy writing for Forbes magazine, presented his predictions for the business world in 2017. He claimed that although he had written up predictions for the following year for the previous 14 years, never before had it been so clear that companies were being rebuilt as digital organizations. Alongside some quite positive-sounding declarations that the most important thing for a business now was to look after its staff rather than its shareholders, Bersin declared the theme of his predictions as "everything is becoming digital." Although Bersin's piece is just a short one, and although it's just a theme, I think there's something interesting about the pronouncement. What does Bersin mean when he says everything? And what does he mean, for that matter, when he says digital? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And what role do humans have to play in this future? It seems fitting that within 5 years of Bersin's little article, we have, at the same time, seen a resurgence of interest in the cyberpunk genre. Not only in Cyberpunk 2077, but also in a sequel to Blade Runner and The Matrix. It's like we know the cyberpunk future is here and we're trying our best to deal with it. More fitting, perhaps, has been the rise of working from home and the complications that have come with that. Not just enabled by the coronavirus pandemic, but by the increasingly ubiquitous digital infrastructure that spans the globe. There's a genuine sense that everything could really be becoming digital. These days, it might not even be such a huge claim to say, hey, everything's becoming digital. From before the moment we're born, our vital signs, themselves just electronic pulses, are digitized into bits and bytes through echolocation technology and LCD monitors. This information is itself shared by doctors through email, and the paperwork begins that legitimizes our births. We exist as data on a digital system before we are even a person. Our mothers may have shared the news through telephone calls, text messages, or maybe even posted about it on their MySpace page or a blog. Today, mothers don't even have to post about their pregnancies on social media, as their online activity will have given it away to advertising algorithms long before they're ready to share the news. Amazon isn't far away from knowing who's going to have kids before they do. By contrast, when we die, it's a struggle to shut down our accounts without passwords. It might be easier just to give Facebook notice that someone has passed away and turn their account into a memorial for that person after their death. Imagine the memes that they shared, without giving it a second's thought, immortalized into perpetuity for as long as Facebook continues to operate. Maybe, just maybe, we're on the cusp of becoming far more digital than we are anything else. Yet, at the same time, we exist in constant fear of a looming climate crisis and global wars, while the human cost of digital technology skyrockets. Peter Eichstädt writes that every time you log onto a computer, you could be contributing to the death toll in the bloodiest, most violent region in the world. We are constantly bombarded by the news or threat that artificial intelligence could soon be replacing the means by which we hope to make a living. But all this seems to do is increasingly drive down the cost of human labor, leading to what sociologist Zygmunt Bauman called wasted lives. If everything is digital, well then, why are so many people dying? Yet amidst this, we're still expected to exist and thrive in a physical space that we're given increasingly restricted access to. As small interpersonal acts that were once commonplace and everyday become less and less common, is it any wonder that we're all becoming so anxious? Around the world, people's relationships to digitality are used against them. Algorithms elicit control over those who lack the time, education, or financial privilege required for the first two, to override their digitally generated information bubbles. Fake news, conspiracy theories, and disinformation steers people towards a distrust of democracy and politics, resulting in political unrest and upheaval. Elsewhere, connections to the internet are weaponized more explicitly, sometimes, as in the case of the Arab Spring, to ensure greater freedom for those who seek it. Other times, as in the restricted internet of China or the internet blackouts of India, to ensure greater control for those in power. Taking each of these scenarios on balance then, it should be clear that only a very small fraction of everything is digital. From the spike of cortisol and adrenaline in the young digital native that is pushed into a world expecting them to possess perfect social skills without ever investing in them, to the literal lives ruined or lost as a result of accelerated politics, digital technology may well be common throughout the world. But the costs and impact of that technology are entirely composed of flesh and blood. But maybe, just maybe, that's the wrong way to look at things. Maybe when we start to think what the reality of the kind of person is that can make a claim like everything is becoming digital, the revelation could be more powerful when we recognize that there may not be a singular everything to speak of. Adopting a mode of thinking that could be called postmodern or relativist, a branch of theory with roots at least as old as the 1940s, with the work of Alfred Schutz and Ludwig Wittgenstein, as well as Michel Foucault, Gilles Deleuze and others, well, maybe we can say that it is the concept of a singular reality that is really at fault here. Just as one person may think of the digital as connoting futuristic technology, while others may think of the digital in relation to an old Casio watch from the 1980s, words mean different things to different people. This might feel like less of a powerful revelation than the previous material cost of technology, but consider it for a moment. What does it say about the world that there can be a section of society for whom everything could just mean the world of finance, even if it's only for a moment? How much privilege and short-sightedness is required for that sort of mentality? And are you at risk of falling into that trap? The purpose of this series of lectures is to get you to think about what it means to make a claim like everything is becoming digital. And what does it mean that a claim like that can be printed in a well-respected magazine like Forbes without it seeming ridiculous? This isn't restricted to asking what it means for businesses, culture, and communication being turned into digital practices. I want you to think bigger than that. I want you to think critically about the statement itself. What does it mean for the world that there are people out there so disconnected from the non-digital that their concept of everything can be limited to the exchange of currency, labor, or capital? How long has it been this way? Is it possible to stop it? And what role, if any, will the digital have in this? Thanks for watching, and be sure to let me know in the comments what you think the purpose of this series of lectures is. Would you approach the subject differently? I'm looking forward to reading any comments you make and getting back to you as soon as I can.